I'm not sure what happened to the sound. Okay, the mute button on my last stream. Okay, we'll just start off with YouTube, Google, the NSA, the New World Order. They are changing everything on the internet. The way my live stream loaded was completely different than the way it loaded yesterday. And the way it loaded yesterday was completely different than the way it loaded before, the day before. So I can show you my analytics page where I want to see who's a moderator on my channel. Before one, a lot of people are losing their wrenches. But that's because of your ability to jump the fences. So your athletic abilities to jump fences in the YouTube world is costing you a wrench. For those of you who have done it, and for those of you who jumped the fence, I no longer will address your comments at all, period. There'll be few exceptions for the Flat Earth Society and a few other, and my long-term friends, of course. But after that, if you guys want information about the Philippines or what's going on in Fukushima, you can ask somebody else. Ask one of the other bloggers. I'm sure they have great details about what's going on at Fukushima. So I would ask you now, if I just see the first person on the screen, so I was just basically talking. Is the sound now working on my screen? And I'll wait for an answer. Because before I could not see that the sound was off. Because everything is changing on the screen. So I see one person is watching. So what we're going to talk about today is Fukushima TEPCO nuclear power plant. The in-charge people in Japan have admitted. Okay, thank you. They have admitted, and we're going to go to Jimmy Dore's video for the proof. Thank you, Flying Circus. We're going to go to Jimmy Dore's video for the proof. Jimmy Dore has all of the details up for Fukushima releasing the water that they've had stored. But Jimmy Dore has no knowledge of construction, no knowledge of how the water was stored in the tanks. He knows it was stored, but he has no knowledge of the type of containment vessels that they built, how many they built, how long they were supposed to last. He just over the most important parts of the release of the radioactive waste into the ocean. So let's turn this camera around, which now I have a regular page up here. Let's turn this camera around. And then we're going to go to Jimmy Dore's page. And we're going to copy his mission statement here. We're going to put that in my description box, along with, see, I just copied that whole thing, and only the title that I copied a half an hour ago pasted in there. YouTube is really doing a lot of crazy stuff. Okay, so Jimmy Dore again. We'll get the link to his page. Now you can see all the finer details on Jimmy Dore's channel. Okay? Now we're going to talk about the summary of Jimmy Dore's video is that TEPCO was the original owner of the nuclear power plants. They were in charge for all of the lies that we received until present day. all of the publicity, exactly the same method of operation of the lies and the deceit that we got from 9/11. Exactly the same level of lies and deceits that we got from 9/11. Exactly the same level of lies and deceit we got from Fukushima and also the Gulf oil spill. You people, you need to understand what's going on. Radiation is probably the most efficient way to do away with the population because you can't see it, you can't smell it, and you can't stop it. So now, the loss from Fukushima was so great 12 years ago. None of it was true. Well, containment vessel 4 blew up, and I think 3 blew up as well. But that they had it under control, that was never the case. So all of the things that they said they were going to do to stop the water, the radioactive water from going into the ocean, that was all, none of it could, from an engineering point of view, anybody with an understanding of excavation and engineering would say that nothing that they said they were going to apply to the site would stop the water. Nothing at all. Nothing. There would be no way to stop the water. So in reactor 4, I'm going to go, hold on a minute, I'm going to go to the comments. I saw Simulacron was here. Thank you for stopping by before. I don't know if you're back. Flying Circus. Here's me, Dennis Adams, stopped by. Okay, so none of what they said, nothing that they said at the time was true. Nothing. So when the explosion occurred, you had a bunch of talking heads. They lied. They were getting paid. Arnie Gunderson, the man says he's a nuclear expert. He's a liar. He may be a nuclear expert, but he's also a liar. And that guy, Fukushima, the guy with the white hair, Fakamukishaki, whatever that guy's name, he's a paid government shill, just like Anderson Cooper. They were getting paid to read a script, to lie to you about the most important nuclear accident to date at that time. So the only truth that Arnie Gunderson ever said is that TEPCO said that Building 4, where that blew up the fuel pool in Building 4 with 50 tons, or estimated 50 tons of radioactive pellets about the size of marbles. The only truth that he said is that the building blew up, but not how it blew up. Okay, so he said that there was a hydrogen buildup in the building. And when that exploded, it blew up 3, 4, 5, 6 foot concrete walls with rebar, reinforced rebar, 2.5 inches in diameter in those walls. That's not possible. It's just not possible. A hydrogen explosion would be big. You fill up a balloon this big, a regular balloon that you buy in the store with hydrogen, and don't do this, don't do it, but somehow get on the other side of a wall and touch that balloon with a lit stick, and it'll make a sound from your side of the wall so loud, it'll make you deaf for a few minutes from just a little bit of hydrogen. So that hydrogen buildup in Building 4, that was a lie, number one. Was there hydrogen in the building? Probably. But did it blow up 6-foot thick concrete walls? No. It would have blew the roof off, but it would not have blown the containment pool into the ocean with 50 tons of pellets. It would not have cracked a 6.5-inch thick, high quality stainless steel containment vessel where the nuclear reaction took place. That's 6.5 inches of stainless steel, the highest grade stainless steel possible made to man. And that cracked, and the nuclear blob went down through one sub-basement, through another sub-basement, and they said it stopped in one of the lower basements. But could hydrogen blow up the roof? Yes. Could hydrogen blow up 6-foot thick concrete walls? No. So they knew that from the beginning, but they still said it was a hydrogen explosion for months. They said that. Then they changed it using high-tech, sophisticated radar and sonar of the explosion and the ground measuring device for earthquakes, things like that. They agreed that it was a nuclear detonation from inside the reactor. That was what they agreed on 12 years ago. So this is not new news. But Jimmy Dore's show skims over is that he doesn't know how the material was stored, and he doesn't know that water has been leaking into the ground and in the ocean and through the basement of Building 4 for 12 years, every day, day in and day out, never stopped. So when the nuclear pool blew up, all of 50 tons of pellets went up into the air. They all went up in the air. And it surrounded the building, and it went into the ocean, all those pellets. So you would say, well, let's just go pick them up with a grabber. Well, a human being could not do that. A human being walking on the ground picking up pellets would have a life expectancy of, after an hour, that would be the maximum amount of radiation they could take, and they would probably die shortly after that. So that's how radioactive it was. The ground outside the building. So their solution was to put 10 feet of dirt on top of those pellets, and that stopped the radiation from going up, and then they could bring trucks in and people to work on the site. That's true. That's all documented. So, but every time it rained, the water would go through 10 feet of dirt, it would hit the pellets, and then it would go into the groundwater and then go out to the ocean. That never stopped. Eventually, they put concrete on top of that dirt many months later, or a year and a half later. But the pellets still released radiation into the moisture in the soil. That aside, the pellets that went into the ocean, say 10 tons of pellets went into the ocean. Their solution for that was to pour concrete, spray concrete over the top of the pellets. That's impossible. So they tried that. They brought in hundreds of trucks of concrete and sprayed concrete over a few thousand square feet. But all that would do would put a top over the pellets. The pellets are still in the water. They're still in the mud. They're still under the dome. They're still in the water. They're still in the mud. And the pellets are still releasing radioactivity into the water. And water is still flowing under the concrete dish that they put on top. All that did was keep the fish from eating the pellets or consuming the pellets. Not that they probably would, but who knows. But that method was about 3 weeks in the making, and they quit that too because they realized they'll need 1 million cubic yards. And as soon as they poured it over a few thousand square feet, the weight of it cracked, and the water was coming up through it in flowing water like tidal pools. So that didn't work. So then what you have to understand is that they said, we're going to store the water. That's a lie. First of all, they have to retrieve the water. Okay, so where is the water coming from? The water is coming, the 3,000 tons a day is what they admitted to, 3,000 tons a day. That's not a lot of water, 3,000 tons. 3,000 tons of water is only 3,000 cubic yards. A cubic yard is 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. Where is the water coming from? The mountains have streams and rivers, rain, and the water comes down through the mountains and goes into the groundwater by Fukushima and then goes through the ground in aquifers out to the ocean. It's been like that since the beginning of time, 1 million, 10 million, 20 million years ago. The water comes out of the mountains, rainwater goes into the ground, and it goes into the oceans. So the problem was that the foundations of the buildings of Fukushima Building 4 were cracked when there was a nuclear detonation in the building. That's a story for another day, how there was a nuclear detonation. But there was. They admitted finally that only a bomb could have cracked the foundations and blew the walls apart. And then there was a story about how someone had planted a nuclear device in reactor building 4. That's a different story. But that's also, I believe, true. So now, water, the power plant foundation is under water. When they built it, they put a cofferdam around, they drained the water out of the cofferdam, they put the foundations in below the water table. But when that building cracked because of the detonation, whether it was nuclear or dynamite, it doesn't matter. The building cracked. And the building's basement filled up with water right away, like, within minutes. And the blob of nuclear material fell down through, I think it was 6 or 5 layers of concrete, 2 feet thick, and then there was a few feet of dirt, and then there was another layer 2 feet thick, and the nuclear blob melted through the concrete and the rebar because of the heat of the blob. Let's just call it the blob. So that went down five levels down, and it cooled down enough to not go through all the way through the bottom. So they said. Still to this day, they don't know where it is because they can't go in there. Still, 12 years later. So they took robots, and they brought robots down to see what the nuclear blob was doing. And they lasted about 60 seconds, and they burnt up. Then they built better robots, and they lasted 3 minutes, and then they burnt up. And then they gave up on that altogether. We don't have the ability to build a robot to go look at a nuclear blob. Take a view, take a look, like they say in the Philippines. You take a look. So that's not possible to see the blob at that time, and up until recently, I haven't seen any blobs. They talk about it, and you've seen it in CGI, but you've never seen the blob. So all that water is going into the building. It's touching the blob. It's becoming radioactive. And that is about 3,000 cubic meters a day when combined with the water outside that's going under the ground past the pellets. So there's three sources of radioactive wastewater. One in the ocean that they couldn't cover up, one in the ground that they covered up with 10 feet of dirt and then put a slab on top of that, but still water goes through the aquifer and brings it out to the ocean. The only thing the slab did was let trucks and cranes work on the site. Rather than working on dirt, they poured concrete on top of the dirt. But the water that went into the containment building was just flowing into the building because the building itself is underwater. It's in the water table. They couldn't stop the water. And where's the water coming from? The mountains. So they decided, which was, I said from the beginning it won't work, but they decided to build tanks, metal tanks, metal, metal. And they were 3,000-gallon metal tanks. I don't know the thickness of the tank, quarter-inch thickness. I don't know what the thickness was. But they built, I don't know, 5,000 of those tanks. What is 5,000 times 3? It's 150,000. 150,000 cubic meters. It's not much. So it's only to fill those 5,000 tanks up could only take a few months, and they were full. Then they built more tanks, and they were full. Now the problem is twofold. Now they have this water that they stored, still water going through the building. They can't stop that. So while they were filling up all of these tanks, somebody made $1 billion scamming TEPCO, the United States, Great Britain, England, Europe, and Germany out of money to build an ice wall. How stupid is this? I said right from day one, impossible, not possible. So what they were going to do is they were going to build an ice wall around the plant by putting a cofferdam a few feet apart, hollowing out the cofferdam with excavation equipment, and then they were going to fill up that. They were going to put pipes, hydrogen or nitrogen pipes in the cofferdam around the facility. Thousands of feet of this stuff, not like a 15-foot wall. Thousands of feet of wall. They were going to go down, they said, 60 feet, I think it was, with the water table is below 60 feet. So they were going to go down 100 then. And they're going to build an ice wall. But the water could go under the wall and come back up and then go back down out. So they started building this ice wall, and then they realized that the water was just going up to the ice wall, down the face of the ice wall, then under the ice wall, then back up and then out to the ocean. So they spent $100 million on nitrogen, cofferdams, excavation, and that didn't work. So what's left? Those steel tanks, right? Well, the steel tanks wouldn't work from the beginning. I know that. Any engineer, any chemical engineer would know those tanks are not going to work because the metal chelates, chelation of metal from nuclear reaction or radioactivity, is the most common problem with storing nuclear waste. There is no metal that can withstand chelation. Even the containment vessel that the nuclear that the nuclear reaction takes place in. That metal eventually chelates and loses its integrity. So we're going to go over to the screen and we're going to look up the word chelation. And we're going to look up hold on. Wait a second. You can't see this. Hold on a minute. Hold on. I got a message about this nuclear radiation stuff. Maybe it's more stuff that will help. Well, let's see. Let's see. Did I get that? The answer is yes. Okay, the answer is yes. I'll put that in the video. So chelation is a word that we're going to look up. It's called it's to chelate, CHEALATE, chelate. Jack Thompson is in the house from the hospital bed, I would imagine. So Jack, how you doing, Jack? CHEALATE, chelate. Chelated, chelate. Okay, so chelate is spelled CHEALTE, and to chelate something is to polarize the molecules in the metal so that they all line up in stripes, so to speak. So for those of you who don't know, we're going to go to the meaning of chelated meaning. What is another word for chelate? Heterocyclic compound. It's kind of like what they like a polarized. You remember those old sunglasses that were polarized? Let's find the exact. What is an example of chelated? Oh boy, on a chemical level, I know what it is, but okay, chelate. It means for the metal to polarize itself and lose its defining strength. It would be like having fabric that wasn't interwoven with one another. The fabric was fabric, and then the fabric loses its integrity. Okay, so it loses its structural integrity. So it's a chemical compound in which a substance is joined. In this case, it would be a radioactive substance to a metal atom by two or more bonds equals attachment. So it's something that attaches itself to the metal, but it also reduces the strength in the metal at the same time because it becomes a different thing. It becomes a different component. It's no longer metal. Well, it's still metal, but it's got a nuclear component to the metal. Well, let's get that in the description box right now. Okay, so it's when the metal is combined with a nuclear particle. Now that means, now look at this, it's talking about a freight broker. Okay. It recorded stuff I didn't even want it to. Okay. a chemical element such as iron or gold. Nope, it didn't even copy. See what I mean about the internet today and yesterday? It's not, I copied this. This is what I copied. And it's not giving me what I copied. The internet is all screwed up. So you'll just have to bear with me on that. I don't know how to fix this because it's not me, it's the internet. Okay, so I'll tell you what chelation means. See, it did it again. So what do I have to do here to get the definition of chelation? What do I exactly have to do? Type it out? I don't think that's reasonable. Okay, we'll try it again. We'll copy that. It's a little frustrating. We'll paste it. Okay, so we had to go to a different page. Okay, to get the definition for chelate. And there it is. I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna post it in the I'll post it in the comments section. Okay, let's get to the comments section. Okay, so chelation is basically when the molecules, first of all, they're attached to a nuclear molecule, and then that polarizes, instead of the metal being meshed together like a cloth, the metal loses its mesh and becomes polarized. To some degree, the best explanation for someone that doesn't understand what chelation is, it polarizes the metal. So now the metal can flake off like flakes, like corn flakes, as opposed to when they were bonded together. Now, they knew the tanks that they built at Fukushima would only last a certain amount of years before that happened. Now, they said before they built the first nuclear power plant back in the 40s or 50s, they said that nuclear waste was always problematic to store, but soon we will be able to neutralize nuclear waste. And that was 70 years ago. Now, can they? I don't know if they can or not. Did they? No, they did not. So all the nuclear waste that has ever been created since World War II is either being stored in containment vessels, stored in docks all over the world of nuclear submarine containment sections of the nuclear submarines. They take the reactor core that's hot for 10,000 years, and they leave it. They cut the submarine, the back and the front off, and they let it float. And then when they have a new place to put it, they pick it up and they put it on land intact, the section of the submarine. And they're hoping that one day they can neutralize the radioactivity. But they did not do that so far. Now, that does not account for the millions of tons of radioactive waste that was taken from nuclear power plants, nuclear submarines, nuclear storage facilities, put on ships, and the whole ship was scuttled in 10,000 feet of water because the ship became so radioactive they couldn't stay on it. So somebody would fill up a ship with this stuff. 40 years ago they were doing this. They'd fill it up, max out the radiation levels, run the ship out to deep water, and then sink it. With the whole ship, the fuel tanks, the radioactive, the truck, whatever's on the ship, they just sank it. That's millions and millions of tons of radioactive waste was disposed of like that. So if we go to Russia, right now we'll go to Russia, and you'll see hundreds of nuclear submarine containment vessels being stored. So basically what I'm saying is they have no way to neutralize the radiation. And the metal, to digress back to Fukushima for 1 minute, the metal that the tanks were made out of, say 1/4-inch metal, it's become brittle. It's no longer pliable, and they're cracking open. That's the water that they're admitting that they're going to start draining into the ocean. The 5,000 tanks that they built at Fukushima. I'm not sure how many it was. We could look that up, though. Let's look that up. Yads, good morning from Cebu City. That was quite the rainstorm you had on your show yesterday. And Yads, when I look at that, let's talk to Yads for a minute. You know, Yads, I lived in Cebu for 2 months. It is the dirtiest, by far the dirtiest place I ever lived in my life. I never lived anywhere that dirty. I've seen the slums in Bacolod, right outside Bacolod City, but Cebu is the North Reclamation area. There's 6 inches of dust along the curb. All the puddles in the North Reclamation area are all septic water, all. So what you were seeing, those streams of water in the street, that's all highly contaminated water with way high bacteria levels. You know that, of course, and there's no way to go around it because we don't have sewer treatment in the Philippines. But that water, my God, I walked through water like that years ago when I owned a septic tank. I used to build septic tanks, repair them, and drain them. So I used to stand in water like that in just sneakers, because if you put boots on, the water would get in your boots anyway. So that water that all the children and stuff are playing in, and that stuff is really, really bad. You know that. You should do a... Yads, you're in Cebu, you should go to the North Reclamation area and look at the puddles and look at the curb, where the curb meets the street, and look at that white dust that when the truck goes by, it kicks up a pile of dust. This would make a great blog for you. That dust is the raw sewage dried out. It's the toilet paper, it's the napkins, it's the tissue paper, it's the Scott towels, it's all of that, and also the solids dried up, turned into a white powder. And when a truck passes you by and you see a cloud behind the truck, that's pure fecal matter. You should do a blog on that. I'm going to get back to my blog now. It's a big city. Yeah, you didn't want to get your feet wet. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'm about to go off into... So Yads has a channel on YouTube if you want to watch the Saya. If someone wants to get the link for Yads' channel, I want to get to the storage tanks in Fukushima. So, Dennis, if you're here watching, if you would be so kind to go to Yads' channel and get her channel link. Oh, Flying Circus, you did that, I think. Okay, thanks. So let's look up how many storage tanks at Fukushima. Fukushima. How many storage tanks at Fukushima? Okay, let's check that out. I think it was 5,000. Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, so it was 1,000 tanks. They said they were going to build 3,000, and when they ran out, they were going to build more. So they built 1,000 storage tanks. And they say that those tanks will reach their capacity by 2024, which I don't believe. So here's what I don't believe it. I don't believe it would last till 2024 because it can't be all the water that's going through the site. It must be only the water that gets into the containment building. Okay, granted, only the water that got into the containment building. But now those tanks are filled up. So they lied about how many tanks they were going to build. And they lied that they said by the time the tanks are full, now I just Googled, I just copied and pasted that again, and it's still giving me something I copied and pasted 10 minutes ago. Why it's doing that, I don't know. So let's get the link there. Okay, so I can't get all of that information. I'll have to put it in the description box. Not in... okay, you know what I could do? I could just copy this. I'll copy and paste just the link without the information. Okay, so they made 1,000 tanks, and they lied and said they were going to catch all the water. So then what my original premise was is that they lied that water's been going into the ocean every day since day one, is underneath where all the pellets are, and in the ocean, all that water is still going into the ocean every day for 12 years. Every day. So what they're saying is that they made 1,000 tanks and they're full. But they said they were going to build 3,000 tanks originally, and then if they had room for 2,000 more, 5,000 tanks. Well, now the tanks are getting on to be full, and the story is that they're going to release the old water from 12 years ago or the new water. But let's just put it like this. The water that was radioactive 12 years ago that they collected and the water that they collect today, I don't know what the difference is. Probably there's a difference. Probably diluted a little bit today. So what are they going to release? They didn't say that. They say they're going to start releasing water. So what happened, according to the Jimmy Dore, is that they said they're going to release the water. China immediately banned all fish from Japan. All. Crabs, mollusks, fish, sushi, fish, period. So now, Fukushima, the people that run the country, now they have to get rid of the fish. And Jimmy Dore said on his show that they don't know where to get rid of the fish. And the fishing is a big industry in Japan. He said, what he said is not really a solution. But so in other words, the bottom line is that 3,000 tons of water that I told you they could never stop, that they were going to build an ice wall to stop, and they decided against that, it wouldn't work. That they were going to build cofferdams, that would not work. That they were going to put dirt and concrete over, that didn't work. So 3,000 tons of not so highly radioactive water every day. 3,000 tons. There's not a lot of water, 3,000 tons. When you look at 3,000 tons of water, you look at a 20 cubic yard dumpster. Well, that's 20 tons of water. It's a little bit more. It's probably like 23 tons of water. But so 3,000 tons is only 150 20-yard containers. And when you have an aquifer flowing underneath, you can have 1 million gallons an hour. Not there, but I've swam in caves in the Devil's Ear. The Devil's Ear. Okay, let's see. What cave did I swim in? Okay. You guys have never swam in and seen a real aquifer. The Devil's D-E-V-I-L, Devil's Ear Cave, Florida. Okay. Yeah, Jenny Springs. Okay, this is the one I dove. The Devil's Ear Spring in Jenny Springs. Okay, you guys want to do a trippy dive. Jenny Springs is this little lake here that leads out into the Everglades. Let's show you the map here. And this is the Devil's Ear. And I dove this for a week. And then we went on another trip, we did the Devil's Eye. But this one is the most famous, the Devil's Ear, because, okay, so the Devil's Ear inside Jenny Springs, it's, wow, look at that, it's the Santa Fe River, okay? It's the Santa Fe River that runs to the Everglades, basically. But this is a river that runs, eventually it runs into the Everglades over here in this area here. Well, let's go back up to the Devil's Ear. Let's click on that. And this is just, it looks like a little lake. And there's a water flow through here. But when you dive down, it's not in deep water, 60 feet maximum depth there. Wow. Uh-oh. Oh. Okay, well, that's... Okay, such a fun time. Okay, so... Well, anyway, this is the Devil's Ear. I dove the Devil's Ear. Inside the Devil's Ear, we could go to a video. I don't have video because I dove this in 1981. They didn't have video cameras back then, but if you want to see a cool video, I would pick any one of these videos out. Let's take a look. 11 minutes, 7 minutes. You only need, let's open this up. Let's just open this up. So I will show you in this video what the Devil's Ear looks like. And of course, every other vlogger on YouTube that's a diver has been here because it's one of the most common dive spots in the state of Florida. So let's open this up and I'll show you what the Devil's Ear looks like. This is the entrance and you walk off this dock over here. You walk off this dock right here. Behind the guy, there's a regular staircase. And then you go into this hole. You go right into this hole where the bubbles are coming out. That's where the divers are. And then you go in. Now they're still outside it. Now you're inside it. Okay, now this is a hole in the wall in the back of the cave. You can go in, you can't penetrate in here because the water comes out of this hole here. 1,000,000 gallons, I think it's an hour, if I forget. 1,000,000 gallons per hour come out of that little hole. So 1,000,000 gallons would be 7 million pounds times 24 hours. In a day, this hole, the water that comes out of this one hole, would fill up all of those tanks in one day. So for those of you who are divers and have never done, the Devil's Ear is the easy one. You have to have open water too minimum for the Devil's Eye. A little bit more tricky. Wouldn't recommend it for new divers, but it's available. And at the time, you didn't need any special training. Now I think you need to do a cave diving course. And this is the placard. Now inside this hole here, you can penetrate in here about 10 feet. And that's where the hole is, inside there. So if you guys haven't dove the Devil's Ear or the Devil's Eye and you live in America and you're in Florida and you want a cool dive, now in the Devil's Ear, the point being 1,000,000 gallons an hour. Well, we could look that up. I didn't look that up, did I? Because I have to try to prove this stuff to you because you people don't believe what you hear on the internet, because so many people lie to you about what's really their version of the truth. So let's look up the Devil's Ear. Let's copy that. Let's go here. You know what I could do? I'm going to try to do something now. I don't know that it's going to work. I switched over to the internet. So let's see if that's working. Okay, so let's go here and let's put Devil's Ear water, WATER, gallons per hour. I think it was 1,000,000 gallons per hour. 1,000,000 gallons per hour. Okay, what is the maximum depth? I think I said 60 feet, right? So 54 feet. I was right. That's 54 feet at the bottom of the cave, but it was 60 feet. My memory served me a little bit mistaken. It's been 40 years. So maximum depth of Ginny Springs, that's a lot deeper. That's like, oh, that's a lot less. Oh, Ginny Springs. Okay, Ginny Springs is the pond where the water comes out. I'm thinking of Crystal River. Okay, so how much water? How much water? This water is the cleanest water in the world also. You can see 100 feet through the water. You could see a face through a dive mask. So it's not going to give me... Water gallons, how many? Okay, I guess I forgot to put how many. H-O-W per hour, spelled per wrong. The E didn't work. From Devil's Ear. Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's search that. No, they're not going to tell us. Okay, all right, here's a little something here. Not much information here, but it said it's... All right, so here's a better picture of the Devil's Ear, the cave. Now, this... there are little caves inside the cave, but the actual aquifer has a steel bars over the grate. You can't go in it. People used to go in it and get trapped in there, and they would perish. So you can't do that anymore. And when we just have beautiful pictures. So this is a picture of a cave. This might even be the Devil's Eye. I'm not sure. Underwater, the Devil's Ear and the Devil's Eye, you would not know the difference between the two of them. Okay, let's try this. I don't know if we're going to find out. Okay, I was wrong. Here we go. 1 million gallons a day, not an hour. Okay, 1 million gallons a day. Okay? 1 million gallons a day of water per day. Okay, so there you go. At the time, I thought it was 1 million gallons an hour. And I'll tell you how strong the current is. Okay, so there's a hole about 4 or 5 feet in diameter. Now, when I went down, you could go into the hole. But they told you don't go in the hole because the water comes out of there so fast. What would happen is people would go into the hole and they'd get smashed up against the rocks and they'd lose their mask and their gear. And then they'd get, we called it, we would Superman the hole. And all day long, for the whole time we were in the cave, we would play Superman. So what you do is you come up to the hole. Now there were bars there but you could still get into there. The bars were rusted out. You could grab onto the bars. So what you do is you'd crawl along the outside edge of the rocks. You couldn't go into the water. The water's coming out so fast. That's why I don't believe 1 million gallons a day. 1 million gallons is not a lot of water. But anyway, they have pumps that pump 1 million gallons of water through 6-inch pumps in a day. So, and you come up to the bar and then you grab the bar. And then you hold yourself and then you go like this. And the water shoots you 35 or 40 feet out into the cave. They call it Superman, and they call it Let's Do the Superman. And you're flying through the water. It's really cool. It's a really cool dive. If anybody hasn't done that dive, really, really cool dive. I mean, like, it's the greatest besides the Devil's Eye. The Devil's Eye is a much better dive, but it's way more complicated And now you have to be certified. So cave dive certified, I believe. So, and it's now NPATI approved, for those of you who want to know. It's either one. And but the fresh water that comes out of there is some of the, it's, they call it blue water. You can see, with your mask, you can see another face in a mask 100 feet away. That's how clear the water is. That's unheard of. The visibility is 100 feet at 100%. So if you could see a face 100 feet away in land, you could see the face 100 feet underwater. And that was as far back in the cave as you could get. I don't know, you guys are not divers, so it probably doesn't excite you much, but it's pretty cool diving. Okay, so let's get the link in the description box, and we'll go back to the... So Fukushima, the bottom line here is that Fukushima is spewing out more water. It's always been spewing out 3,000 tons a day since day one, since the very first day, never stopped. And the water around in that area has always been radioactive. And the only thing that's changed is now they're admitting that they're releasing the water from the tanks, which is the more radioactive water. And that's all I really had to say about Fukushima. They never told you the truth. The truth is the aquifer that flows under the concrete slab, under the 10 feet of dirt, and past Fukushima, plus whatever they don't pump out of the containment building, all that goes into the ocean 12 years now. Never stopped. Not even for a minute. Not even for a second. Not even when they started building an ice wall. They built the wall and immediately knew it wouldn't work after they spent about $10 million. Or more, I don't know. They never told us the truth about it, so how can I tell you the truth? They just, same thing with 9/11. Now, 20 years later, they're coming out with, well, you know, Building 7 definitely didn't fall down from a fire, and we know that now, but for 20 years, 10,000 scientists, they just made a mistake. All right, so that's all I have to say about that. I think I'll end this stream now, and then I'll do my diet update in a few minutes. I want to rest for a little while. Oh, you know what I want? I want something to drink. I've been dry. That's good. Boy, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to the day I start eating again. I really am looking forward to that. God, man, am I looking forward to that. All right, so that's all I got. Fukushima, they've lied to us since day one. Oh, well, I could talk about how they were going to clean up Fukushima and the robots. So after now 12 years, I did some research the other day. After 12 years of trying to develop a robot that would go down into the nuclear waste water, I think about 3 years ago, I remember they made a robot that would last 3 minutes in the water, and then it fizzled out. So they still haven't invented a robot to go down into the water to take a look. What they did see was the rebar from the where the blob went through the concrete, it just melted through the concrete. And what they did see at that time, the water was like, because it's flowing water in there, because it's coming from the aquifer from the mountain. It's not stagnant water, it's flowing through there, which is why I've been saying they've been lying since day one. They could not possibly collect all that water. That would be impossible. In other words, if there was a way to prove them to be wrong, they would be lying to you, which they lied to you from the very beginning. So the water was like a orange, yellow colored water. The rebar was whatever size it was, and it was brown and corroded with nodules on the corrosion. So the nodules are the way certain steel rusts, high quality steel rusts in nodules and dust rust. So the robots did get maybe to go up to the blob, but they only lasted 3 minutes. So whatever it was that they wanted to do, I guess they did, because I haven't heard anything about robots. So they also said, again, digressing, I'm going to repeat what I said before. They said during World War II, the radioactive waste would be able to be neutralized before it became problematic. So if we were to go here, and I know what I wanted to show you. Russia, well, I could show that to you on YouTube. Okay, so this is the Jimmy Dore show that I linked in the description box. This is the one, Japan's fish too radioactive, banned in China. Let's put that link over there again. And then we're going to do something special. Thank you, Dennis. That's the link to Jimmy Dore's page, I think. But it didn't copy the Jimmy Dore title. That's amazing what's going on YouTube. Okay, let's look up Russia. RUSSIA. Russian nuclear, NUCLEAR, submarine subs. Storage, STORAGE. Let's try that. Let's see what happens with that. Dismantling Russia's nuclear subs. Decommissioning of Russian nuclear-powered vessels. Okay, so here is the one we want to look at. They have been Wikipedia, so this is a good one. Okay, so it's an issue of major concern to the United States and Scandinavian countries. There are I think it said there are 40 being decommissioned. how many. Russia has a lot of nuclear vessels. I wanted it in reactor disposal. Okay, so the reactors must first be cooled down for 3 years after its shutdown. Then the coolant is removed, followed by the hull above the reactor, then the top shield. And then they're shipped to a storage facility. So Russian submarines could have 2 reactors. This is probably in depth, but I'm not going to read all of this. I will give you this part. You can read it yourself. And cut that out. I'm not reading for 2.5 hours. Okay, so let's, but I really want to have a YouTube video for this. I really do, actually. So let's go here. Let's go back over here. Let's look up video. This is it, and Andreeva Bay. This is the one that I was looking for. Where are we today? Nuclear storage in Andreeva Bay. All spent nuclear fuel, which was sent to Andreeva Bay, was stored in the open without protection. The danger of increasing leakages is great. Okay, so they've been storing this stuff just out in the open, and they have guards around it. This is another disaster that Russia has created in Russia itself. That one is really, really bad, Andreeva Bay. Now, why can't I find a video on the Russian submarines? Decommissioned Russian submarine video. Let's get rid of this, Andrew. So they're just storing this nuclear waste right out in the open. Then that's how they're going to eliminate the population, by the way. That's where this went. That's where they're going to do this with radioactivity. How many, if you were to Google how many nuclear power plants, watch this. How many nuclear power plants, USA nuclear power plants have leaks. Ready? All of them. About 90%. List. Let's just look at this one list. 2020 leaks and spills. This is a list of operating reactor sites that have experienced radioactive leaks or spills on site, owner-controlled area where the concentration of tritium Okay, how many nuclear power plants have leaked are there in the U.S.? Oh, that site can't be reached. What percentage of nuclear power plants are leaking? 75%. 75% of nuclear power plants in America are leaking into the rivers and the ponds and waterways that they bank up against. 75%. That's how they're going to do us in. Not us, because it's too late for us. It'll be a slow, steady process with the children of today that don't read or write and do TikTok all day. And it'll be TikTok, radioactive fish, radioactive water. It's been going on for a long time. 75% is a low number, by the way. That's just what they admit to. And they don't admit how bad the leaks are. There was a leak in Colorado. I'm not sure if it was Colorado. But there was a leak where everything for 5 miles downstream of the leak died in a day, in one day. One guy opened up a valve one time. Then there was sludge. There was another one with sludge. They filled up the sludge tank too much and the sludge busted out and went into the river. That killed everything. Oh, for years, everything was dead. Everything. Plants, fish, trees, frogs, turtles. Before the plant, it was a normal river. After the plant, everything was dead. I don't know how many miles, 7 miles, 8 miles down the river. Everything died, everything. No life at all, period. When that sludge gave way, and there was no way for them to grab the sludge and put it back. Oh, they're gonna get you. They're gonna get you. It's gonna happen. It's happening now, and you don't hear about it. You don't hear about it. All right, so that's it. You guys have a nice day. Of course, have a nice day. And there's thousands and thousands of people that report this stuff. It just goes unnoticed. But millions of tons, okay, so of radioactive equipment was put on hundreds of ships, big ships, 700, 800, 900-foot ships, 1,000-foot long ships. They just filled up the ships with radioactive waste. Water, gloves, tools, trucks that were in the area that got radioactive, storage facility tanks that were leaking. They just put them on the ship. They brought the ship out into a couple of miles of water, and they scuttled the ship. If you have an oil leak in your boat and 2 ounces of oil leak on Lake Michigan and the Coast Guard sees that, that's a $5,000 fine. And yet millions of gallons of diesel fuel and oil, petroleum products, and all kinds of caustic chemicals that are on a ship. They just sunk the ship right in 2 miles of water. And they did that for years. Who could stop it? Who would know? Except the people that are sinking the ship. Nobody would know. They probably still do it. They're probably doing it now. That's your nuclear industry working hard with Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and also that lady, the Jewish lady, Margaret Zinger, I think her name was, the one who has the abortion clinic. She's killed like 1 million people. And how many people? It was 700. Oh, yeah, we were talking about the church yesterday. I looked up the information from the Catholic Church. You're not going to believe this. If you include all the people that died in wars in the name of Christendom, Jesus. Let's go. Let me get these links off this page here. Okay, so you got the devil's here. Let's get rid of that. 75% of all nuclear power plants leak. And then we have this one here, the devil's ear, 1 million gallons a day, which I don't believe. I believe it's, maybe back then it was 1 million gallons an hour. I think that was probably closer to the truth, but They don't know. These people don't know. And then we have the water that's stored in Fukushima, 1,000 tanks, will be full by 2024. They're already releasing that water. It's already done. That article was written 10 years ago. And they said it would be in 2024, but it's 2023. They misjudged. So where is my Catholic Church thing? Where's my video on that? They removed the video. They removed the information. How many people have been killed in the name of Christendom? There it is. How many people have been killed in the name of Christianity? Crusades, religious extremists, everything counts. Let's refresh the page. Let's Google it again. Let's cut that. Let's paste it. Let's enter it. No, we're not going to get that. That site can't be reached. Ha. Okay, let's open up a new window. Oh, I'm having trouble with the internet again. Imagine that. How many people have been killed in the name of Christendom? Nothing. Well, it was 700 million people. The answer was 700 million people since the Roman Empire. So the Catholic Church, Crusades, Children's Crusades, the Inquisition, wars in the name of God, the Knights Templars, all combined, an estimated 750 million people were killed defending Christianity and Jesus. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Talking about Jesus, Louis Pagan-Ponce is a Bible. He's an expert in the Bible. Him and I are going to put together a show for you people. I'm not sure when. We're not going to take questions and we're not going to respond to comments. I'm going to ask him some questions about his understanding of the Bible and enlightenment. And he's going to give me his responses to who did what in the Bible, and that Jesus is the way, the only way into the kingdom of heaven, according to Christendom. And most people that become enlightened immediately believe in Jesus' power. There's no doubt about that. And also Muhammad, and also Buddha, and many others. So enlightenment opens your mind to see all the enlightened masters of the past. And there were many. So I'm going to start shutting these windows down now, and then I'm going to shut the stream off. See these two videos I'm knocking off here, I couldn't get on my Yahoo Mail for 4 days or Skype. This was the window I got when I tried to get on Skype, a Microsoft window. That's another one of those. Okay, I cannot. I'll show you one more thing to show you how screwed up Google and Google is. I'm going to show you a page that you cannot see. It's my private access page to videos and who's a moderator on my channel, which pretty much everybody is losing their wrench, by the way. That's a fact. So you would go into well, I can't. Where is that? Now I can't. Oh, here it is. Okay. So now Look at this. I have not been able to access my managing moderators or subscribers or blocked accounts in a week, 1 week. Google is changing the internet. Okay, it just can't be done. You can't get there, no matter what you do. I refreshed the modem. I worked off data. Can't be done. You cannot go into your private settings in anything. Almost any part of Google is not accessible. They just tell you check again later. Not that I care, but I am taking some wrenches away. For jumping the fence, we're going to call it. I never liked that term, but I'm beginning to like that term. Jumping the fence. If you have jumped the fence in any way, shape, or form, except for very few exceptions, I'm going to, I'll let you comment on my page all you want. You could talk to each other. But conversations with me ended when you jumped the fence. That's a fact. And you'll see who it is. So Jack Thompson, I saw Jack Thompson in the house before. Jack Thompson is in the hospital now with apparently the same type of hernia that I had, an inguinal hernia. And boy, did I mess with Jack's head yesterday, because he jumped the fence. He did do that. So we had a little fun with Jack yesterday. If you didn't catch my show yesterday, the last 45 minutes, Jack Thompson and I talk about his operation and what could happen, what is going to happen, what they're going to do to him. Because he thought he was going in the hospital today for the operation. He doesn't understand aside from all the tests that he already took, there's a preliminary set of exams, a preliminary set of things that have to be done the day of the operation. One of them is you can't eat for 12 hours. And every 3 hours they take your blood pressure and blood during that 12 hours. Not blood every 3 hours, but they take blood, I think, at the beginning and at the end of the 12-hour fast. For me, it was like 17 hours before I didn't eat anything. Then they take your vitals, and then they put you under the anesthesia or spinal. They did a spinal on me. And then they do a biopsy of what they're going to fix of the area to see if there's any sort of any other problems besides anything out of the ordinary. And that biopsy is taken immediately. And it goes up to the laboratory and it comes back before they close you up. So I explained to Jack that they could do a biopsy and everything is fine and they do the operation, but also they could start removing bits and pieces. Oh, he was not happy about that. No. He goes, are you serious? I'm going, well, it depends on the biopsy, and that's true. And probably everything is fine, but if they find other problems, they'll fix it right then and there. I told Jack, you could come out of that operation and be a prime candidate for Bud Light commercials. He was not the happy camper. And that's what he gets for jumping the fence. Amping Permi from the Philippines. And of course, Amping Permi means take care always. And let me get some ice water and wash my face. And then I'm going to do my... Today is 31 days. No food, baby. No food. 31 days. Now, I know for a fact I lost 37 pounds. That's a fact. 37 pounds in 30 days. Or 29 days, 37 pounds. I think that's quite the... I started out at 121 and a half with no shoes on. And I went down to 105 with shoes on and my wallet and my belt. So I weigh 104. So I lost 15, 16, 17 and a half kilos by day 29, which is 34 pounds. Wait, I don't know what, I forget what it is. Let's take a look. 17.5 kilos. 5 kilos to pounds is 38 pounds. So I lost 37 pounds on day 29. Not bad. I feel fine. Doctor said, well, I'll give you an update in a little while. That's a separate video. I might start doing 5 or 6 or 7 videos a day. And I'll spend my time on YouTube talking about real stuff. I'll talk about real things like Fukushima, like the Ukraine war. Oh, boy, they're sticking it to us there, ain't they? They're really sticking it to $200 billion they took from the American taxpayer to send to Ukraine. They said $150 billion. It's a lot more than that. I'm being Permy from the Philippines, baby, which of course means take care always. That's right. Oh, got to shut these windows down. Let me shut these windows down while I got this up. I can shut that off. Don't forget to go to the Jimmy Dore channel to look at his video about Fukushima, because he has all the statistics and all the data on cards, note cards, props, note props. There we go. That one gets shut down. This one, what are we saving this for? We're saving this. Yes, we're saving that. Got to be careful. You got 3 windows open with the same video stream on. You got to be careful. Okay, I'm going to check my mail. Whoa, I got an interesting article for my next live stream. Someone sent me animals that can live without food and water for months or years. We'll talk about that in my next stream, which will be about a half hour from now. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now. That's right. From the Philippines, baby. I'm being Permy. Take care always.